The Supreme Court has declined to intervene in the arrest of Hemant Soren, sending his case back to the High Court. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. The focus continues to be on the Enforcement Directorate and the role that it is playing, according to the opposition, a biased and selective role. The arrest of Hemant Soren has led to questions as to whether the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who has also now ignored 5 summons from the Enforcement Directorate, might be next. Although Hemant Soren, the Jharkhand Chief Minister's lawyers, appealed to the Supreme Court today, the Supreme Court sent the case back to the High Court, declining to intervene. The Aam Aadmi Party protested. It is anticipating that its Chief Minister, Arvind Kejriwal, could be arrested next. On the floor of both houses of parliament, the opposition alleged the misuse of investigative agencies like the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. Although a new Chief Minister has been sworn in for Jharkhand, Congress leaders, among others, raised questions as to why this process has been delayed when it was rather swift in the case, for example, of Nitish Kumar's re-swearing in as Bihar Chief Minister. Jharkhand MLAs also released a video to offer show of proof and even considered moving outside of Ranchi to keep their MLAs secure from poaching. The larger debate continues. The opposition continues to allege that there is a selective application of anti-corruption laws against it, and this is being used as a weaponized instrument in the run-up to elections. To talk about what's happened in Jharkhand, what might happen in Delhi, let's introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us from Jharkhand today is the senior leader of the BJP and its spokesperson, Pratul Shah. Namaskar, Pratul ji. Also joining us is senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Sanjoy Ghosh. Good to see you, Sanjoy. And also joining us today is Congress leader Mohan Kumar Mangalam. Political analyst Anurag Naidu should be with us in a moment from now. Let me actually play out Mallikarjun Kharge's comment, really setting the framework for this debate, and then I'll come to you all for initial comments. Listen it.
लेकिन इस केस में वोट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस लेने के लिए उन्होंने 10 दिन का टाइम दिया और आज 12:30 बजे वो एक में ले रहे हैं। तो इसका मतलब क्या है? एक तरफ यानी देखिए संविधान के धज्जे कैसे उड़ाए जा रहे हैं। एक तरफ हमारे नीतीश कुमार जी इधर रिसिग्नेशन देते हैं, उधर वो वोट लेते हैं। तो ये क्यों नहीं हुआ? झारखंड में ये क्यों नहीं हुआ? अगर वो हो सकता है 12 घंटे में रिसिग्नेशन हो सकता है, 12 घंटे में लिस्ट सबमिट हो सकती है। सर 1 मिनट 12 घंटे में लिस्ट होती है, 15 मिनट में उनको बुलाया जाता है, 5 मिनट में वोट लिया जाता है, 2 मिनट में दूसरा चीफ मिनिस्टर बन के उनको वोट दिया। ये शर्मनाक बात है। ये तो धज्जे उड़ाएगी। ये तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का धज्जे आप उड़ा रहे हैं।
Nirmala Sitharaman did respond to that, and we'll play that out in just a moment. Pratul Shah, I'd like to start with you. Mallikarjun Kharge का आरोप है कि एक डबल स्टैंडर्ड है। झारखंड में कोई और स्टैंडर्ड, बिहार में कोई और स्टैंडर्ड। गवर्नर ने बहुत वक्त लगाया और अभी भी एमएलएस पर पोचिंग का एक तरह से खतरा है। On the other side, of course, the matter is now in the High Court. The Supreme Court has declined to intervene. आपकी क्या टिप्पणी रहेगी?
Look, Barkha, what has happened in Jharkhand closely amounts to the theatre of the absurd. It defies all kind of logic. The Chief Minister went missing for 40 hours when ED came to question him. And this was not the first time like he was served a summons. He was served 10 summons, and the first 7 summons he had ignored. And this relates to a case of corruption. It's not concerned with any public agitation. And this relates to a case of corruption of selling of army land, the shooting firing range situated in the middle of Ranchi, valued at around 200 crores. And the Chief Minister's, the trail ran right up to the Chief Minister, and the ED had concrete proof, and that's why there was no intervention from the High Court also yesterday. When they moved the High Court, they wanted to withdraw the case. The High Court did not allow because the ASG objected, and then the matter went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said first you go to the High Court. See, Barkha, what actually is happening in Jharkhand rarely happens anywhere else. 70,000 crore corruption cases, allegation have been alleged against the present government. And to top it all, you haven't heard something like this, that the Chief Minister, being the mining minister, allots a land in his own name. and lots of mining is in his own name. So the office of profit sword is also hanging on him. And the chief minister went missing for 40 hours. Barkha, can you imagine? 40 hours without any security detail. The state was headless. There was nobody to give orders. And to understand what actually happens when the head of a state goes, so I had to buy this bestseller from Bill Clinton and James Patterson. The president is missing to actually understand what actually happens when the head of state goes missing. But this is no joke. For 40 hours, there was nobody to give any orders. And this relates to a corruption case. This is not the first case of corruption which has been alleged against the chief minister. And as far as the ED is concerned, 10 summons. Can you imagine? That was he was playing with the law, the very law he has taken an oath to uphold. But he was doing exactly the opposite. So, I mean, the long arm of had to catch up with him. And as they say, Qayamat ki Raat, the judgment day, when the God decides on your sins and the goods you have done, so you actually take it to trial. The chief minister till day before is lodged in the Ranchi Central Jail now.
All right, Pratul Deo, लेकिन the question still remains. ये जो double standards का argument opposition ने किया है, alleging that there was one standard for Nitish Kumar when it came to the swearing in, quite another, because your party was hoping perhaps to break their coalition and form the government. How would you like to respond to that?
Barkha, I'm very glad you asked me this question because see, they went to claim to form the government day before yesterday, and the chief minister resigned day before yesterday. And before resigning, another leader of the house was chosen. So when the governor shot back a letter to the chief minister, he wasn't even designated, to the leader of JMM legislature party then, saying that how can there be two leaders at the same time? The chief minister had not resigned, and yet his party MLAs had elected another leader of the house. So they went again yesterday and submitted a fresh letter of offering claim to form the government in Jharkhand. And Barkha, very strangely, there was no mention of the first letter that they had submitted. So in fact, even they were admitting that there were technical glitches in the first letter they had submitted. So after 5 hours after the letter was submitted, the second letter, which actually is the first technically right letter, the governor called him to form the government and gave him 10 days to prove his majority. Now I was hearing somebody as young as Mallikarjun Kharge say, why 10 days? This is the upper limit, Barkha. If you want, you can convene the house and prove your majority tomorrow only. And as the cabinet has decided, as per the SR Bombay case, the governor acted and the majority will be proved in the floor of the house. So now the floor test will be done on the 5th of February. So where was Operation Lotus? Where was horse trading? These are just, they are trying to set up another narrative to deviate the attention from the larger picture. That Chief Minister Hemant Soren, a key partner of the India Alliance, is neck deep in corruption, is lodged in the Ranchi Central Jail on corruption charges. Right.
Okay, all right. That's a very partly witty, partly strong opening comment that you've made. Good touch about the book and the missing chief minister, and I'll put that to Mohan Kumar Manglam in just a moment. But Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Minister, accused the opposition of speaking up for the corrupt amid a raging debate over comments made by D.K. Shivakumar's brother, D.K. Suresh, talking about a separate nation, quote unquote, for the South. Listen in.
The entire opposition has walked out in favor of corruption, and when we are talking about eliminating corruption, rather than saying why they want to walk out, they are coming in. We are reminded, we can't speak about the other house member, even if he is planning to break this country. But here are they questioning the functioning of the governor? Doesn't the governor know what to do? And this kind of a conduct against a constitutional authority by a party which has been in power for more than 45-50 years is despicable, sir.
Mohan Kumar Manglam, do respond to the points made by Pratul Deo. The fact that Hemant Soren was effectively missing, the fact that he declined to answer the ED summons 7 times. Arvind Kejriwal is playing from the same rule book. The 5th time the summons have been ignored. Why cry foul then?
I think because it's open for all to see how the ED has completely lost credibility. I think after the amendments that were passed in 2019 and pushed through Parliament as a money bill, the draconian powers of the ED have gotten significantly worse and are being used only to target the opposition. Data itself has been filed in court to that effect, saying that of all the cases against politicians, 90% plus are against the opposition. And we've seen that time and again, politicians who have ED cases.
Oops, Mohan, you're frozen up there, but I think the larger point you were trying to make was about the selectiveness of the ED and how it's being used. I'm sure Mohan will reconnect. In the meantime, Pratul, if you just want to come in briefly on that, I mean, the Indian Express compiled this data in 2022, showing how 95% of the cases against politicians, the 124 politicians were against opposition members. I think that's the point Mohan would have eventually come to. So let me ask you to respond to it.
Barkha, if most of the corrupt are in their kitty, you can't blame us. And see, no cases have been withdrawn against any leader who have joined hands with us. And I say this on record with you. And it's not that only the opposition leaders are under the ED scanner. I can read out a list. Dushyant Singh in Rajasthan, Galije Reddy in Karnataka, PVS Sarma in Surat, Mohit Kamboj in Mumbai, Surinder Patwa in Madhya Pradesh, Lakshmikant Sharma, he was an HRD minister in Madhya Pradesh, even Shahbadi, who was an ex-MLA from Jharkhand. They're all under the ED scanner. So who says it's selective? No, if most of the corrupt people belong to you, so I can't blame. I mean, and why are you playing? See, they are also playing the tribal card that a tribal chief minister is being targeted. Now, this is the first time I've heard that IPC also has provisions for crimes, based on religion and caste. Because when Narendra Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat, he was questioned by SIT for 10 hours. He did not play the backward card then, neither did BJP to make any political angles to it. We had believed in the SIT, we had believed in the Supreme Court, and he got clean sheet from both of them. And as far as Lal Krishna Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi are concerned, they also faced the CBI inquiry, but we never made that a political issue. We believe in the law of the land, something which the Congress and the opposition lacks.
Okay, Mohan, you're back with us. I did quote the data that perhaps you would have come to, and the response of Pratul was to say, "हम क्या करें अगर सारे ज़्यादातर corrupt आप ही लोगों के kitty में हैं." Also making the second argument that the cases have not been dropped against anybody who was being investigated prior. If your connection stays long enough with us to respond, go ahead, Mohan.
Right, you don't need to drop anything, right? That's the beauty of PMLA. There's no statute of limitations. There's no time to get to a charge sheet, time to file through, time to even today. High Court is actually one of the in a case related to this said that if you do not find a case within a year of actually starting your inquiry and attaching assets for which you need no basis in PMLA, you have to then give those assets.
I think Mohan's on a terrible line today, so I'm going to take this point to Sanjoy Ghosh. Mohan, if you can hear me, request you to reconnect on a better network. Sanjoy, there were 14 opposition parties that tried to take this to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice himself threw it out saying that if you believe that the case for the opposition is shrinking, then find a solution in that space, i.e. the political space and not the court. And that case was thrown out. Now, the point here is, Pratul Deo makes the important point that Hemant Soren fell back on the SC/ST Act to allege discrimination, which is, many would say, is a misuse of what that act is really meant for. The corruption allegations, the money laundering allegations in these land deals against him is very serious, made more so by the fact that he's mining minister. Can the opposition really play victim here? Sanjoy Ghosh.
Hi, Barkha. So first of all, you're absolutely right. The Chief Justice said that deal with this politically. And I think now the Chief Minister of Delhi is dealing with it absolutely politically. Because you see, the mistake that earlier was being made by these opposition leaders is to actually deal with the ED as a legitimate wing of government. Now, if the ED is going to work as an extension of a political party, then the best way is to deal with it politically. And that's why the Chief Minister of Delhi, instead of accepting the summons, has written to them that you are basically political. You have no agenda. You have an agenda. You have an ulterior agenda, and therefore first make clear why you want to talk to me. In legal terms, technically it is wrong. It is non-cooperation. It is disobedience of a summons. That is if you see the ED as a legitimate party. Now, just dealing with a little basic issue.
But if you don't see the ED as a legitimate party, then it's complete anarchy, isn't it? By the letter of the law, even if you don't agree with the spirit. even if you don't agree with the spirit of the law that is being invoked, by the letter of the law.
Well, Barkha, you have seen yourself the video filming of the elections in the mayoral elections in Chandigarh. So, is there any doubt as to whether there is anarchy or not happening in this country? So, also just keep in mind, and this is what very few people understand, that an arrest is not required in every case. Brijbhushan Sharma was not arrested. The police can go conduct the investigation. The authority can conduct the investigation. In Brijbhushan's case, the Delhi police conducted such a nice investigation. He was never arrested for a single day, and they filed a charge sheet where they said he's actually to be blamed in the charge sheet. There are damning allegations made by the police. The issue of arrest is when you are anticipating someone fleeing from justice, when you are anticipating someone is going to tamper with documents, is going to intimidate witnesses. Now, the fact of the matter is that at this stage, a sitting chief minister, a deputy chief minister, ministers of opposition governments, they are not a flight risk. There is no need to arrest. So the very fact that we are focusing on this clearly shows that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark.
Okay, now the point is the courts have not intervened. And as a lawyer, I'll come to you later on what that might mean. Because, you have to believe in some institution. You're saying we don't believe in the ED. Kejriwal is right to resist us politically. Yes, Sanjoy, briefly, and then Anurag Naidu. And Mohan,
the learned friend from the BJP has been reading some book. There's another book which should be presented to the governor, and that is the Constitution of India. And ultimately, for whatever reason, whoever is responsible, whether a faulty letter has been given or not given, the governor, being the guardian of the state, cannot leave the state even for 1 minute. Either there has to be president's rule or there has to be a chief minister who's an acting chief minister. You cannot have a situation where the state has neither president's rule nor an acting chief minister.
Let me get Pratul to respond to you briefly. Let me get Pratul there to.
And one last thing, you just played.
Yeah, Pratul, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll suggest my learned friend to present a copy of the Constitution to the Honorable Chief Minister too, which under the Article 14 says that everybody is equal in front of eyes of law. The Chief Minister seems to be behaving like a feudal lord and not an elected Chief Minister by defying the ED summons. And actually, he registered a case against the ED officials the very day he was being questioned against the SC/ST Act. And you're very right, it is a misuse of the SC/ST Act. And see, I'll just show you the first page of that FIR, how harbari mein galbari, you make mistakes when you hurry. He has written he belongs to the Sahibganj constituency of Jharkhand. This is a letter which is actually signed by the Honorable ex-Chief Minister. Now he belongs to the Barkha constituency. Somebody who's writing a letter as an FIR, how can he misquote? He doesn't even realize where it is written. So either this is a fabricated FIR, or the Chief Minister is not supposed to make such huge mistakes.
Okay.
So let me just one final point, Barkha, if you allow. By calling the ED's powers draconian, I think they are questioning the 27th July 2022 judgment of the Supreme Court, which actually said that the PMLA is like money laundering is as heinous as an offense as terrorism, and they even upheld the ED power to seize, arrest, and detain. And most importantly, they said it's not mandatory to give an ECIR, enforcement case information report, to the person they have summoned, as in the FIR. So there are differences upheld by the Supreme Court, right?
Okay, let's go to the others now. Mohan, third time lucky. Let's get you in to make your comment. Mohan, yes.
Barkha is saying that there are at least about 10 or 11 cases that I know of in the Supreme Court alone, where various provisions of the PMLA are currently being challenged. And as we know that the 2022 Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary case, the judgment, had been challenged by a whole set of petitions filed against it, had forced the Supreme Court actually with an expanded bench to then take up all those provisions together and take up all those petitions together, and say whether what was done in 2019 with the PMLA, the provisions that were added, whether they were constitutionally right or not. Unfortunately, Justice Kaul retired and that bench got dissolved. But these questions are something that the judiciary is also looking at. The ED is basically leveraging these extremely draconian provisions that were added in 2019 to harass the politicians in the opposition. I think it's there for all to see. And I think the courts are finally waking up to it too, which is why they're looking at all these issues afresh.
Now, Mohan, there are two separate points briefly, because I want Anurag to come in. One is to say our guy is innocent. The other is to say the law isn't being applied equally. Which one are you saying? In the Hemant Soren case, for example, are you
How
saying...
can I say? How can I say our guy is innocent without a fair and unbiased body actually investigating the allegation? Like I said, the Enforcement Directorate is not someone I would trust to investigate any member of the opposition. And none of their
Okay.
investigations have borne out anything. Over 6,000 plus cases filed, only 25 have come to fruition. So they will drag cases on ad nauseum, and if you cross over to their side, they'll say we lost the files, like they did in the Chhagan Bhujbal case. They are brazenly biased.
Okay, brazenly biased. Anurag Naidu, let's bring you in. 1 minute, Pratulji. Anurag Naidu, you've been waiting patiently. Mohan finally got his comment in without his network breaking. Anurag, it's the data, painstakingly put forth first by Indian Express does reflect that bias. I'm not making a case for the opposition. I think they're very serious charges in the land deal that Mr. Deosha has just referred to, also in the Delhi liquor case. But what happens to Ajit Pawar and the irrigation scam, right? What happens to leaders in Bengal who, after switching sides, one doesn't hear too much about the corruption case against them? There's the Nirma washing powder metaphor that the opposition uses when it comes to those who have faced corruption when they've been on this side. Do you believe that there's an overreach, clear overreach and bias taking place here, even as someone who supports this government? Hang on, Anurag, I can't hear you.
I think it's a very good comparison that you put out. Ajit Pawar case or some other, the Nirma concept, washing machine concept that we have been hearing. I have a very simple question, Barkha. People who call, names for people like Ajit Pawar, it's a washing machine, mein chale gaye. If they're so concerned, why don't they approach the court and say there was an irrigation scam? They were the colleagues, right? If somebody like Mr. Jayant Patil, who's been the colleague of Ajit Pawar, so Mr. Jayant Patil can say, sir, I was there in the cabinet. He can go to the court and say, I know that he has done corruption. He was accused in the irrigation scam. Please investigate. Will the court deny a hearing to somebody like Mr. Jayant Patil? So there are people. So if we are so concerned, what's happening? This opposition, but they're like the fence sitter. They're waiting for Ajit Pawar to come back. The moment he comes back, he said, चलो उनके साथ गलत हुआ, वहां चले गए तो देखो आपने बोला था नहीं किया. So it's like, just Barkha, Jagan Mohan Reddy has close to 30 very serious cases. You know very well, right? Today, you all are claiming that people are claiming that he's close to BJP. That's why there's no investigation. Tomorrow, if ED goes to Jagan Mohan Reddy's house out of sympathy, opposition said, "Dekho, it's a witch hunt. Jagan Mohan Reddy is being targeted because this guy has 23 MPs because he might just join the India bloc." So it's a politics of opportunism, and ED has put out very clearly in their data 96% conviction rate out of 5906 cases. And out of that, how many are really MLAs, MPs? It is 176 out of 5,900 cases are elected representatives. Now, you cannot every time say that elected representatives are sacrosanct. You are an SC.
It's 95% of 124 politicians. I'm not talking about the ED's total cases.
No. I'm saying ED's total cases are 5906 Barkha. Out of that, the politician elected MPs, MLAs, representative are total 176 out of 5906. So I'm saying it's a very minimal. It's not like the majority of the ED cases are only on politicians. So let's also appreciate ED has other activities to do. So, but we cannot every time call. I was on a channel. The anchor, started saying he's an elected representative. He's the chief minister of a sovereign state. I mean, that does not make ED. And somebody was telling it's a political season because elections are closed. You cannot ask ED to run away.
Okay, let first Pratul go ahead and then Sanjoy. Yeah, Pratul.
For themselves, when MOS Chandrasekhar was answering in the Lok Sabha to a question by Priyanka, he actually read out the figures. In the 10 years of the UPA government tenure, these figures are very, very official. There were seizures of only 5,000 crore plus illegal cash and asset during the UPA regime. And in our 9.5 years, there have been seizures of more than 1,25,000 cash and illegal property. So the figure speaks for themselves. Have we planted those illegal property on all the people who have been arrested or who are under the ED scandal? See, corruption cannot have double standards. See, if the figures speak for itself. Let's talk about Jharkhand. When the Chief Minister's mining secretary C house was raided, a staggering 21 crore rupees in cash was recovered. When the Chief Minister's official representative Pankaj Mishra of his MLA constituency, Barhe, his house was raided, 9 crore rupees unaccounted cash and property worth 100 crore rupees were actually seized. Papers were seized from his house. So if all this seizure is happening and there is a difference of 5,000 crore during their 10 years and 1,25,000 crore during our 9.5 years, so the figures speak for themselves. Yes, there is
Okay,
corruption, and we are like we want to root it out, right?
Mohan and then Sanjoy. Mohan?
I just want to say that, these figures of seizure are such a joke because they've increased the number of search and seizures by about 25 to 30 times. They'll go and immediately attach properties with no basis. The case doesn't need to have a basis, doesn't need to have any prima facie evidence, none of that. Just attach it and then announce it. Oh, we've got all these assets and say they're illegal. They don't need to be proven to be illegal. Nobody needs to prove. The burden of proof is now on the person whose house ED has come to, because ED has shown up, they've attached your assets, then suddenly these assets have now become illegal. This is why Delhi High Court gave the judgment it did today, which is that if in 365 days you're not able to establish a case, give the person back his assets. Now you have spokespersons like this actually talking like they've seized some sort of illegal assets. It's hilarious. Have some shame, for God's sake.
Okay. Before Pratul ji responds to Mohan ji, let me get Sanjoy. Sanjoy, I'm more intrigued by your argument that yes, the Chief Justice said fight this politically, and part of the political fight is to question the ED. Now, 2-3 things are happening. Hemant Soren and Kejriwal both have the same approach. Don't show up for the summons. But the missing chief minister example that Pratul gave in the context of Hemant Soren, surely that takes away from how seriously the post of the chief minister will be taken next time. There's that. Secondly, if you're going to say the ED, you're going to use the SC/ST Act against the ED. Are we not trivializing what Adivasis and Dalits actually go through? When there is a serious allegation of corruption, you can't hide behind your tribal status or your caste status, can you? What are you actually recommending here, Sanjoy, when you say you agree with the Chief Justice that the fight has to be political? A political fight will have to mean that your voter will have to believe that you have been victimized. That is a political fight.
See, let me just clarify. While I agree with the Chief Justice that the fight has to be political, but I completely disagree with the courts, and I am being more vocal than your Congress spokesperson on this. You see, the courts cannot also be completely blind to what is going on. Everyone can see it, and I am not a representative of any political party, and I think they are all, as I keep saying at every show, is hamam mein sab nange hai. So I am not holding the flame for Hemant Soren or X, Y, or Z. The issue is that we have a constitutional system. Now we have to follow the constitution. Now, cannot the courts see that this arrest, this kind of zealous... Now, you talked about the missing chief minister. Now, constitutionally, who is responsible? Has the governor complained that he couldn't get in touch with the chief minister? Has the chief secretary complained that he couldn't get in touch with the chief minister? Who's talking about a missing chief minister? It's the ED who's talking about the missing chief minister. So therefore, I'm not on the facts of this case. The point I'm making is that please, for God's sake, protect constitutional institutions. I hope you have a 1,000-year rule, but assume, God forbid, you don't have a 1,000-year rule. The opposition today is learning from you, sir, and they will use this against you, and worse, and in a worse form. And this will only, for us citizens who are apolitical, it is very sad for us to see how the system is happening.
Okay.
If the court, one last minute. If the courts come down heavily on corruption, if the ED comes down heavily on corruption, we as armed citizens, we welcome it. But then it has to be uniform. You cannot have a standard where a journalist gets a bail from the Supreme Court within 1 day, and then a chief minister of a sitting state is told that no, you have to go to the High Court. Will the heavens fall if a special... yes, everyone is equal before law. But in this case, an arrest of a chief minister destabilizes an entire state. So therefore, there are other issues also at play. I am not defending that individual chief minister. Prosecute him. Prosecute everyone. Prosecute even people who are prosecuted by you and then now have become chief minister, and the prosecutions have gone in cold storage. Be even-handed. If you're not even-handed, then this is a political use of the tool.
Okay, hang on, everybody. Before I take last comments, a moment of some of political levity from Parliament today. Mr. Kharge, the Congress leader, making a kind of sarcastic comment about the BJP. The BJP using it to list Mr. Kharge as one of their new fans. Let's just take a look at this. Have a little bit of a laugh before we come back to discuss final comments on this rather serious issue. Take a look.
और लेकर आपका इतना बहुमत है, अब तो पहले 330, 334 की, अब ने तो 400 पार हो रहा है। अरे 400, अरे तुम चुन के आओ सर, मेरा दावा है ये लोग ठहर के चुन के आने दो सब। नहीं, ये लोग ठहर के चुन के आने दो पहले, इनको पहले भेजो तब मालूम होता। ये सब मोदी के कृपा से आए हैं, तालियां बजाओ। हाँ, ये मोदी के कृपा से आए तो तालियां बजा रहे। ठीक है, हम देखो एमएलए लड़े, एमपी लड़े, आज आखिरी वक्त इस राज्यसभा में आए, यहाँ के लोग तो पूरा मोदी जी के आशीर्वाद से ही आए हैं।
So the reason I actually play this out is to go back to what Sanjoy, you and I have been debating about. What is the political answer? The political answer has to be that your voter believes that the Modi government is victimizing the opposition and not giving it space, or it has to believe that our leaders are not corrupt. That is the political answer. That is the political answer. But let's take last comments. I'll start with you, Anurag. Where is this debate going to end? Tomorrow, if Arvind Kejriwal is also arrested, at some point, the voter will also start, will think one of two things. Either they'll think, as Pratul said, all the corrupt people are in the opposition, or at some point, this could catch up with the BJP and the government. Which one do you think it is?
I think it's a wonderful timing to have this debate and ask this question, Barkha. We are going to the election season. Let the people of India decide. And if it is,
Yeah.
I mean, look, when the Chief Justice is saying fight it politically, he's also mean take the public opinion. Let the people stand for you if you have not done any mistake. And also, Barkha, let's understand. Very interesting, very strong point I want to make. You know, somebody said the court are blind and all that. Even if the court takes a suo moto, let's put a hand on our heart and say, Hemant Soren is going to come clean from the court. Just let's ask ourselves, he's still going to be convicted. So let the people of India decide, and let's not say if the listing is there happens in the court, he's going to come clean and it is going to be like everything hunky dory. It's not going to be like that.
So that's an interesting point, Sanjoy, that even if the court had listed it, when Manish Sisodia, Sanjay Singh are sent to jail and bail is not given, the listing is not where the beginning and end of the legal debate is.
No, it's not listing. It's even the orders passed. Even, I'm sorry, I can say this. Within 2 weeks of passing an order on Manish Sisodia, that same bench granted bail to another co-accused in the excise case. So you're saying that the Deputy Chief Minister of a state cannot get bail, but this other private excise accused can get bail. And, the entire legal community knows. I mean, you cannot have a trial of this nature where there are 30,000 documents, there are 300 witnesses, complete in 3 months. I mean, it's a joke to say that you wait after 3 months and then you go back and then and it's a Deputy Chief Minister of a state. The same bench made observations that there is in 1 minute your case will be thrown out. So people are watching. People are watching what is happening. And you also know that a particular people are talking about it, that the way matters are being listed, benches before it's going. So you've had people like Dushyant Dave, Kapil Sibal, who are very, very senior lawyers of the bar who are actually articulating this.
You're alleging a master of the roster bias.
I'm not alleging, it's for all to see.
You, as a lawyer, you can get away without facing contempt of court.
Not really, Barkha. In fact, as a lawyer, I'm taking a risk by saying this, because I have to appear before these people every day. Okay.
Okay. In the meantime, JMM MLAs have been moved to a 5-star resort in buses. The floor test is on Monday. They have been taken to Hyderabad. Mohan, what's actually going on? Are you worried that they will be poached by the BJP? Mohan?
Sorry, I thought you would unmute me. I have no idea what's happening in Jharkhand, but I would assume it would be wise to move them into safety given the BJP's record of trying to do horse trading every chance they get. I mean, we don't have to go down the list of all the states they've done this in before. I will, use my last comments to bring a bit of levity into the conversation, because I keep hearing this missing CM for 40 hours, missing CM for 40 hours from Mr. Dio here. And, it's not like he was out shooting man versus wild with Bear Grylls where something nefarious was going down in the border of our country. It was man versus ED. And he made a rush for it to try and get away from this questioning, which he knew once they got him, they wouldn't let him go for maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months. Nobody knows. I mean, there's a reason why Mr. Chidambaram was questioned for 106 hours, and Mukul Roy, when he was in BJP, was questioned for 2 hours. So there's no sort of equity here. It's completely ED versus the opposition.
ED versus the opposition, Mr. Deo. Last word.
So first, let me begin with what Mallikarjun Kharge had to say. He's considered the grand old man of Congress of the 21st century. And they say truth slips out. So I'll take it on a lighter note. Probably he was actually admitting that we are going to win 400 more seats, and he actually admitted to the Tina factor. There is no alternative to Narendra Modi. That's what he seems to be saying. And let me correct my learned advocate that the governor was very, very apprehensive and very worried. He shot off a letter to the CMO asking about his whereabouts. When the headlines were screaming, CM Farar, CM ka koi pata nahi, he summoned the DGP, the Chief Secretary and the Home Secretary of the state and asked them if they are in touch with the Chief Minister. He was worried about the safety. And they also admitted, this is from a press release from the Governor House, that they are not aware about the whereabouts of the Chief Minister. So when I say the CM went missing for 40 hours, it is a very, very serious allegation backed up by the Raj Bhavan and backed up by the official release from Raj Bhavan, which has not been contradicted by anyone. But I was just listening to what Mallikarjun Kharge had to say, and you actually are right. It actually brought back smiles to us on a very, very serious debate. Thank you for having me on your debate, Barkha.
Thank you. I was just going to say that since you you showed us a book in the beginning, there's no better book than one that chronicles the daily developments of Indian politics. Never a dull moment. There's humor, there's drama, there's cop chases, there's MLAs being shipped and flown to resorts, and there's palace intrigue, palace coups, whatever you want to think of, it's there. So thank you so much, Mohan, to Pratul, to Sanjoy, and to Anurag, and thank you to our audience. I'll see you soon.
Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.